And a very happy Tuesday to you at 12:06 in the West. It's the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's in Culver City.
John, I'm going to need Henry Lee for this one.
It's happened yet again.
The Transbay Tube for BART was shut down in Oakland because of a homeless encampment RV fire.
Well, at least it's a little bit different than copper wire theft.
It's happened yet again.
Now, was it a traditional homeless RV fire, or are they taking sides with the cartels?
As far as we know, it's your typical homeless RV fire.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, California Governor Gavin Newsom is busy traveling the southeastern portion of the United States, hawking his book. The state of California is doing what the state of California does, which is letting violent people out of prison.
This might be one of the worst of the worst that is getting out under a California law that you might not know about called elder parole. And elder doesn't mean 70. Elder can mean over 50. But someone who was convicted for 3 life sentences plus 20 years for kidnapping and molesting about 9 different kids under 7 years old is about to be released on parole from Chino. And let's just say there's a lot of people very upset about it, including the district attorney who prosecuted that case, Anne-Marie Schubert. And because these crimes took place in Sacramento County, Jim Cooper, the sheriff, is all up in arms about this, as you should be, because this is California at its worst.
And this is one of these things where Gavin Newsom will just claim it's misinformation. If you say you're letting violent people out of prison who a judge and a jury said belongs there for the rest of his life and then some, he'll go, oh, no, we didn't. Or it's not my fault. I'm not the one that let him out. My appointees let him out, but don't blame me. I didn't do it.
For more on the predator parole, here is Fox 40 in Sacramento. And then afterwards, we'll go to Marla Tejas' interview with Anne-Marie Schubert.
And Fox 40's Cedric Good joining us live at 5 with why law enforcement says that he should still be behind bars. Cedric.
Yeah, good evening, Nikki, Eric. Sheriff Jim Cooper says that this is devastating both for the victims and the families. Now, this man, they're calling him a monster. He was convicted on kidnapping and sexually assaulting children as young as 3 years old. And now with California.
This guy gets parole?
Why in the world would any sane person let this guy out?
I mean, if we castrate him first, maybe.
What we have to figure out how to do is to pin this on Gavin. Because what he does is he says, I'm one step removed. I didn't let him out. My parole board did. And they're just following a law that was there that pre-exists me. So don't blame me. And then no one gets blamed. Because what really is what he's saying is blame the system. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Well, do something about it. You're the governor. Why aren't you here in the state fighting this? Why are you on the opposite side of the country selling your book when this is the business at hand and you are an absentee landlord?
And by the way, you'll find this interesting. On Friday, Gavin Newsom held that press conference announcing the grand opening of the San Quentin Learning Center. And he said in that press conference that he personally reviews every single application for parole. So either he's full of it there or he has approved this nonsense.
Well, he's doing that all over the place where he talks to a white audience and he goes, yeah, I read a book in an hour and a half. And he talks to a black audience and he goes, yeah, I have a 960 SAT score just like you.
California's elderly parole program, he is now eligible for release. A parole board has granted early release to 64-year-old David Allen Funston. In 1999, he was sentenced to 3 consecutive life terms, plus 20 years after.
Did he serve 3 consecutive life terms? I don't think so.
By the way, in this state, do you have any idea how bad you have to be to get that sentence?
Plus 20 years after being convicted of kidnapping and sexually assaulting over 5 children under the age of 7.
7 girls, 1 boy. You know what? They were amazing. They told great stories about.
This is Jim Cooper, the sheriff.
They told great stories about what happened in detail. Described the doll he gave them, the candy, the car.
We're letting this guy out. What the hell?
It's hard to wrap your brain around.
This is not someone that can be rehabilitated.
And by the way, when they talk about equity constantly, this is what they're referring to.
What the bed in his apartment looked like, the sheets on his bed. Those kids were amazing, that young.
Investigators say the crimes date back to the mid-1990s.
Probably thousands of pages, arrest reports on Mr. Funston and the cases he did. And take us back to 1995. He was out preying on children in the Sacramento area. We're talking children as young as 3 to the age of 7.
Cooper says when Funston was sentenced, he believed he would spend the rest of his life in prison.
And in California, it's battle after battle when it comes to our children. A few years ago, we're fighting human trafficking of a child. That wasn't a violent felony. Had to fight to get it passed. They got it passed.
And you know how that got passed? People actually, for once, paid attention to what was going on in the legislature. When that bill to make the purchase of a minor for sex a violent felony was about to get killed in the Assembly Public Safety Committee, people started paying attention. Public pressure got to the Assembly, and for once, they did the right thing.
This is also why you need the death penalty. Because the argument against the death penalty is, well, life in prison without parole is a worse sentence than the death penalty. But the reality is in any state that's controlled by Democrats, there is no such thing as life in prison without parole. Everyone can get out at some point.
Now we're dealing with mental health aversion. You can kill your 1-year-old infant and get your record expunged and go work with other kids. What in the hell is going on in California?
California's elderly parole program.
And Jim Cooper used to be in the Assembly.
Yeah, talk about finding Jesus the moment he gets out.
Once you become a sheriff, you see what the effects of all the laws that you passed are, and you change real quick.
How often do we hear from former legislators who, when they were in the state legislature, whether it be the Assembly or the Senate, they get along with all their colleagues. They usually vote with their caucus. They do whatever is asked of them. And then they term out of office or they lose re-election or something happens. They try to run for a higher office. It doesn't work out. So now they're just a normal civilian. And you hear them opine on political subjects, and all of a sudden they make sense. Why is it that when they have the power to do something, they don't? In fact, they put their foot on the gas pedal to make it worse, driving us off the cliff. And then when they get out, they all find common sense.
California's elderly parole program allows inmates who are 50 or older and have served at least 20 years to be considered for release.
He was sentenced to almost or a little over 90 years. He's done less than a third of that, and he's going to be on the streets. 9 victims under the age of 7, and he does under 30 years.
Who's on this parole board that makes this decision? We should know who those people are.
They are politically connected people who are, I guess, retired judges or criminal defense attorneys, whatever. They're people who, with a wink and a nod, know how they're supposed to vote on these things. However, if when they vote on something, it becomes politically unpopular, Gavin and the powers that be in Sacramento will go, well, that was them. That's not us. And part of the deal is they're supposed to take the slings and the arrows when the unpopular decisions are made. But trust me, they wouldn't be appointed by the governor if the governor didn't know how they were going to vote ahead of time.
And now he's going to be on the streets in a neighborhood near you.
Under Sheriff Zegler also warned about broader impacts of the policy. 1/3
of our current child abuse suspects will be eligible for parole as soon as they turn 50. And they're not this monster, but some of them are.
For one of Funston's victims, the decision reopens old wounds.
I'm a victim of David Allen Fenton. I feel he is a very horrible person who has done horrific acts, and he does not deserve freedom. Why I say this is this man has took innocence from myself and others. He does not deserve freedom. He does not need to be back in public society. He is a criminal, child molester, dangerous, and deserves to spend the rest of his life behind bars.
Who in their right mind thinks that this guy should be returned to society?
And by the way, Every time a monster like this comes up for parole, these people are re-victimized again. Because if they don't show up to those hearings and they don't relive this awful experience over and over and over again, they'll say, well, clearly nobody cares, so we're just going to let them out.
Wait, if you're eligible for parole at this age, isn't the guy you put away eligible for parole?
Well, the guy that I put away is already dead. He didn't make it a year.
Now, the sheriff's office say they don't know a release date or where he is going to be released, but they will be notifying the public as soon as they get that information. In the meantime, Sheriff Jim Cooper wants the community to know when you go out and vote this election season to think about this case. Live in Sacramento, covering local news that matters. Cedric Hood, Fox 40 News.
When they say elections have consequences, this is one of those consequences. When you put enough people who have this nonsense ideology in Sacramento, the worst of the worst get released on parole.
And this is also why when you're evaluating a candidate for public office, you need to evaluate them based on the issues they will deal with. If someone is running for water board and they're running based on how much they hate Trump, they're not telling you if they know anything about water. If someone's running for governor and they're running for governor based on how much they hate Trump, they're not telling you what types of people they will appoint to parole boards and whether or not that will make your community less safe.
Now let's listen to Fox 11's Marla Tejas as she sat down with Anne Marie Schubert, who was the prosecutor on this case.
Be paroled and released. He has been paroled. That has been approved. He's expected to be released. Your reaction?
I would say mortified, shocked, disgusted. Don't understand how any reasonable group of people could think this person should ever be released from prison.
Is there any recourse?
We're looking at all of our alternatives. I mean, I'm not the DA anymore, but I do run a nonprofit that could assist. We've written a letter to the Department of Corrections to ask them to evaluate him for being a sexually violent predator. That's our hope, because then he could conceivably be held after being released.
With that said, have you been in touch with the current DA?
No, I have not. I've talked to a couple people from the office, in particular people that were handling this hearing. So I'm not.
Well, the current DA in Sacramento County is busy running for Congress, so he might not be paying that much attention.
This is what happens. This is what happens when you have people who are looking to move up the food chain and they're not doing their job. We have a governor who's not doing his job, and they have a district attorney who's not doing their job.
Faulting them in any way. I just think it's a huge disappointment, and not only to Californians, but to the victims of this case. I mean, as soon as I found out this was going on, I found several of the victims. They're outraged, they're shocked, they're disgusted, and they want to do everything in their power to stop this.
Remind people of what he did.
So first of all, it's been reported in the public domain that he was convicted in Colorado for sexually assaulting a woman. He then came to California, and over a 6-month period of time, he went on a crime spree, essentially of hunting young children, children that were under the age of 7. I think the youngest one was 3 or 4 years old. He lured them with, he's every parent's nightmare, right? He lured them with candy or toys or Barbie dolls.
He is the literal definition of stranger danger.
Strangers with candy.
One particular victim, he took up to the mountains and he horrifically sexually assaulted her, beat her, dumped her on the side of the road, left her alone. She was 5, walking along the road barefoot, crying. Another child was, I think, 3 or 4, took her to a house, sexually assaulted her, then dumped her in a neighborhood. I mean, these are...
Gavin needs to be asked, while he's on his little tour around the country, why he's okay with this guy getting out.
I'm telling you, he's going to say, I didn't do it. Don't blame me. I hate Trump.
I mean, these are very young children. And in my entire career, I did this for a long time, 30 plus years, never seen anything like it. And particularly with children this young. You know, at the time of his sentencing, the judge was very clear that he was every parent's nightmare. He's what every parent fears the most for their children. And secondly, that no amount of time could ever be enough to put him in prison. So then he sentences him to the maximum he can. And now we have a law in California that allows these types of individuals, serial sex offenders, to get out of prison after 20 years and at the age of 50.
Doesn't matter that you were sentenced for 3 life sentences plus 20 years on top of that. In California, apparently, nothing is as bad. Nothing can be worse than just, 20 years and we can let you out.
They act as if over-incarceration is the worst thing that could happen to the state. No. Under-incarceration is the worst thing that could happen to the state. Because if in the name of letting people out of prison early and making sure we're not over-incarcerated, you let this fool out, guess what? You're putting your population in danger.
And so we're making some very strong efforts in California with our legislature to change that law. And I'm very hopeful that, unfortunately, this case can become the example of why the law needs to be changed.
So this is the elderly parole program. Inmates generally eligible for parole suitability hearing if they're over 50 and have been incarcerated for at least 20 continuous years. So hence why this is what he's being granted parole under.
Correct. He would not be getting paroled but for that law.
How long has that been on the books?
It was first passed in 2018, and then Governor Newsom reduced the age to 50. Used to be 60, and then he reduced it to 50.
So Gavin has endorsed this dumb policy. This isn't something you can blame on Jerry Brown.
Let's watch him wiggle out of this one.
50 and only 20 years in 2020. So there's efforts to change it.
So there you go. That is part of Marla Tejas' interview with Anne Marie Schubert. She was the district attorney in Sacramento County that put this monster away. 3 life sentences and 20 years, and he got out in less than 30.
Just in case you needed more evidence that Gavin Newsom is a disgrace. Let's go to John in Long Beach. John, hello.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Great show. What a subject. How in heaven's name could they let someone like that out? It's just incomprehensible to me. And I have a family member who suffered abuse from someone that was a longtime family friend of ours when she was really young in the late 50s and early 60s. She's 2 years older than me. She'll be 76. And this woman, that absolutely, and incidentally, he was accused of it, and the police talked to him, and they never arrested him, and he left the state, and no one ever heard from him again. And this woman today is still suffering. Ruined her entire life. She became a drug addict, an alcoholic. She was into prostitution, and she's had mental and emotional problems her entire life because of that.
No, and this is something that the parole board doesn't take into consideration because they don't care. People's lives are ruined when something like this happens to them at any age, but particularly a young age. The John Phillips Show, 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
Well, let's do that right now. 790 KABC welcomes Walter Trout to the Canyon in Agora Hills on March 7th. Tickets are on sale now at AXS.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by the Canyon, where music meets the soul. Good luck dialing.
And we have some breaking news because California Governor Gavin Newsom just put out a statement regarding the state choosing to let out that monster.
So Nikki Lorenzo of Fox 40 and Inside California Politics just posted this on her Twitter. I'm going to retweet it. I reached out to Governor Newsom's office about this case. A spokesperson tells me that Newsom does not agree with the state of parole board hearings and asked for a re-review. Quote, BPH is an independent agency and made this decision. The governor asked for BPH to re-review its decision. The governor does not agree with the outcome.
And that's typical Gavin. It's a law that he signed that they used to let him out. It's a parole board that's not elected. They're appointed by the governor. And they're appointed with the understanding that they'll vote a certain way. And now he's acting as if he had nothing to do with any of this. He's a psychopath.
You have declared on this show many times that you believe he's a sociopath.
All right. Now, speaking of psychopaths, we have some Katie Porter news for you.
Kicking her when she's down, Johnny.
Little D.
Katie Porter, who came in 5th place at the California Democratic Party convention, is figuring out how to rebrand her campaign because she's been in free fall ever since the incident.
Get out of my shop.
That plus the interview with our friend Julie Watts. Her going down to the Tijuana River didn't really help.
You can smell it right here.
So now she's decided to make campaign promises that she will never be able to deliver on as Katie Porter goes all in on single-payer health care in California.
Make California Canada again?
For more, here is Katie Porter on her YouTube channel that I am a subscriber of.
It was true in 2017, and it's true today. Single payer is the only way to provide the highest quality health care for all.
Yeah, Gavin campaigned on that in 2018, and he won and immediately realized it's not going to happen in California.
How come she's not chopping any vegetables while she's producing this video?
Sorry for the noise, I'm cutting carrots. While Donald Trump tries to push us backwards, California...
What does this have to do with him?
She makes everything about Donald Trump. It's like Donald Trump is her ex-husband or something.
While Donald Trump tries to push us backwards, California should seize the opportunity to move forward. It's time for CalCare. I've been fighting for Medicare for All since 2017 when I flipped an Orange County seat, becoming the first Democrat to represent that area.
It's hard to hear you, Katie, because of the violins.
Imagine putting this woman in charge of your health care.
She'd be making us all that minestrone soup.
Oh, if she's responsible for paying the bill, she'd want us all to be eating vegetable soup.
Sorry for the noise, I'm cutting carrots. Becoming the first Democrat to represent that area in 75 years. I didn't back away from Medicare for All then, and I'm sure not going.
Hold on a second. By the way, I need to point out the visual here. Be great if I could just do that. Here's the thing. Katie Porter is not in a studio. She's not in her home. She's on the middle of a street. And she is getting sirened in the middle of this ad. They tried to drown her out with the violins, but if you pay attention, you can hear the sirens.
Maybe that's the last guy that Gavin let out.
Becoming the first Democrat to represent that area in 75 years. I didn't back away from Medicare for All then, and I'm sure not going to as governor.
You can hear the siren, right? Couldn't have done a second take, I guess.
Well, maybe she shot this video within a certain number of feet of her ex-husband, and she violated the restraining order.
I didn't back away from Medicare for All then, and I'm sure not going to as governor. In Washington, I took on big pharma and health insurance companies.
And did you get Medicare for All? No?
No, she didn't.
Fighting for single payer. And today, I am standing right here in California, still fighting. CalCare puts patients over profits, making sure that every healthcare dollar we spend goes to care, not billionaire CEOs. CalCare gives workers the ability to change jobs or start businesses, gives long-term care to seniors, and it eliminates medical debt.
Yeah, but how do you pay for any of that?
Listen, if you want to make it to 90 years of age, you are better off riding a motorcycle without a helmet, playing in the NFL in the late 1980s, playing Russian roulette with 5 bullets in the chamber, than you are with allowing this woman to be in charge of your healthcare decisions.
It was true in 2017, and it's true today. Single payer is the only way to provide the highest quality health care for all.
I will say this. Currently, our current Medi-Cal system gives the highest health care for just the poors and the illegals.
I know.
And if you make over $30,000 a year, it's a massive hit to your salary.
I told you, a friend of mine had 104-degree fever, had to go to the ER, and went to the ER at a hospital in Rancho Mirage, California, a town of 17,000 people, almost entirely all elderly, almost entirely white, almost entirely affluent. And he said he was the only person in that entire ER who spoke English.
And wasn't the whole plan, if you give them all Medi-Cal, then the ERs won't be full anymore?
That's what we were told. Not working out that way.
So there's Katie Porter's. I'd call it a plan, but there's not really a plan of how you implement this. Again, Gavin Newsom ran on this in 2018 and immediately gave up on it.
Just mentioning her name, by the way, causes the email to blow up.
Let's see. Anything I can read on the air? No, I can't read this. No, it's really, really, really funny. It's really, really, really funny. You know what? Why don't you read an email? But this one from Sean is great.
No, I'm not reading it. Maybe Queen Elizabeth can read it later on, but I'm not doing it.
Oh, I could do that. Okay, I will do that. During the break, I will take this. It's not overly explicit, but it definitely is not something I want to say with my voice and have it captured out of context. So maybe there's one email that I will put in the old AI generator and we'll get the Queen of England to say it so I don't have to say it.
One of the things that Katie Porter did at the convention is that she told a number of Democrats, without specifically mentioning them by name, that it's time for them to get out of the race and get behind her. Otherwise, 2 Republicans are going to make it to the November runoff. 800-222-5222 is a telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. The Fix California Hour coming up after the news at 1. All right. Is the Queen ready to read the email that neither one of us is willing to read?
Yes, this comes from listener Sean, and it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's just something that I don't want to have me on tape saying. And John refuses to read the emails for a very specific reason.
Oh, yes. My mama didn't raise no fool.
So without further ado, we turn to our dearly departed Queen Elizabeth II to read the email.
Katie Porter isn't Trump's type. Well, maybe if he was into type 2 diabetes.
You know, it sounds real classy when the Queen reads it.
It is in the Queen's English.
All right. We also have some breaking news coming from LA City Hall.
The former fire chief, Kristen Crowley of the LAFD, is suing the city of Los Angeles over Karen Bass's handling of the fire and trying to make her the scapegoat.
Good for her. I'm happy that she's fighting back because Karen Bass screwed this up. Gavin Newsom screwed this up. They put a report out. The report was watered down. They hired a PR firm. The PR firm wants to freeze certain journalists out because they were telling too much of the truth. And they want everyone to get on the same page and blame the fire chief. And she's not sitting down and taking it on the cheek.
The former fire chief alleges that after initially praising the fire department's response, Bass, quote, reversed course and looked for someone to take the fall amid backlash over delayed responses to the fire and criticism of the mayor being absent from the city when the blazes broke out, as well as cuts to the fire department budget the year before.
And she also proved that in this town, you get in more trouble with the truth than you do with the lies, because that's what got her fired. When she first acknowledged that the cuts to the fire department budget impacted their ability to fight the fire, the mayor went berserk.
Quote, and this is coming from the filing. I'm reading this off the California Post. How cool is that? She sought to avoid accountability by shifting blame and lying, including falsely claiming she was not aware of the nationally anticipated weather event, falsely claiming that the LAFD's budget was not cut, and falsely claiming that the LAFD's resources would have supported an additional 1,000 firefighters to fight the blaze, claims contradicted by public records and Bass's own prior statements.
I got to tell you, I am a happy camper after hearing this.
And you usually aren't one to just be celebrating lawsuits against municipalities.
No. What do you say after the show, you and I do a toast and have a couple of lesbianic tonics?
Should we go to Tony Thurmond now?
Yeah, let's do that.
Tony Thurmond is the former state superintendent, and he is currently running for governor. I know you might not have been aware of it. He's actually been running longer than most. Well, he sat down with ABC 10 as they interviewed every candidate at the California Democrat Convention. So let's hear what he has to say.
Again, this June, Californians will head to the polls to help decide who could become the state's next governor. Well, the final decision comes in November. For now, 9 leading Democratic hopefuls and several Republicans are in the race. So to help you get to know them and what they say they'd bring to the job, Alex Bell sat down with the candidates at this past weekend's convention and will do the same with the Republican Party at their April convention. Now, to keep things fair, we drew names at...
Now, are they going to talk to, at the Republican convention, just Hilton and Bianco? Or are they going to talk to Hilton, Bianco, and all the gadflies?
How many gadflies are running in this race? I know there's got to be a ton.
I think there's a few dozen.
Now, to keep things fair, we drew...
The turkey guy's running again.
Oh, is he now? Zaki.
Yep.
Now, to keep things fair, we drew names at random for these interviews. First up, State Superintendent Tony Thurmond.
For people that are meeting you for the first time, why are you deciding to run for governor?
Which is funny because he's been in California public office for pretty much his entire life, and there are people who have no idea who he is.
Well, originally there were 3 Tonys. It was Tony in the race, and then Tony Atkins dropped out, so now we're down 1 Tony.
Yeah, you know, our state's facing the biggest affordability crisis ever. So many challenges around homelessness. And I want to give working Californians a tax credit so that you all have more money for those, expenses like groceries, gas, and housing. I love this state.
So things will be expensive all year long, but in January, you'll get a little check.
And he's in charge of the schools in this state.
I love this state. I've served it for 18 years as an elected official. I believe I have the experience and a vision to serve, and I want to help our state be better.
Now, if you are elected, what are your top 3 priorities going to be the first year in office?
We have to make sure that people can afford to have a home, and so as governor, I'm going to provide down payment assistance programs. I have a very unique housing plan that will allow us to build 2 million units of housing over the next few years. It uses surplus property that exists on school campuses in every county in our state. There are 75,000 acres of land ready for development. So it will be housing. It will be helping our homeless.
Wait. His plan is to build 2 million homes on school property, and it's going to be used to house the homeless?
That makes sense.
So every single school in the state of California is going to have a homeless shelter on its property, probably on the football yard?
Oh, God. Can you imagine what the meth addicts would do with the chemistry lab?
Now, Tony, what do you do if there are people in the encampment that you want to put into this school homeless shelter that are sex offenders and can't be anywhere near a school?
Good question.
Over the next few years, it uses surplus property that exists on school campuses in every county in our state. There are 75,000 acres of land ready for development. So it will be housing. It will be helping our homeless. As I said, I'm working to get $10 billion for building affordable housing and helping the 10,000 unaccompanied homeless minor youth who are on their own, who need help. I support a single-payer health care program. And
just like Katie Porter.
Didn't one of our listeners come up with the idea of putting the homeless on a cruise ship?
Yes, decommissioned cruise ship or Carnival, whatever.
And just for the record, she came at it from all the right reasons. She was altruistic. Not once did she say, send that cruise ship to Puerto Vallarta.
And fighting back against Donald Trump. You know, this reckless immigration policy that we have seen is devastating our communities. I'm working on legislation that would put a tax on any company that operates an ICE detention center. And as governor, I'll work with Congress to abolish ICE and to create a pathway to citizenship for those who just want to work and pay taxes here.
California has spent billions.
I love the fact that they're all trying to one-up each other on how much they can harass ICE. What are we going to be left with? Katie Porter saying that she's going to shut down any 7-Eleven that offers an ice machine with their soft drinks?
California has spent billions addressing homelessness, but yet it still remains a huge problem in our state. What would you do differently to address homelessness?
I think there has to be accountability in how those dollars get spent, and we have.
Really? Because the current governor vetoed that bill.
Yeah. Were you out there criticizing him?
And we have to make sure if there's any waste.
By the way, Gavin loves Tony Thurman's performance so much that Gavin is trying to eliminate the position of superintendent in all but name only.
Oh, yeah. Those two don't like each other. But if you know that he doesn't like you and you're a long shot at winning, why not tell the truth?
And we have to make sure if there's any waste or abuse that we, put a spotlight on that and take care of that. So I think that for every dollar we spent for programs for those who are unhoused, we have to require that the participants participate in mental health and substance abuse programs.
Oh, Gavin doesn't like that, but of course you're not going to criticize Gavin for that, are you?
Nope.
I'm also working on legislation right now that would put a measure on the ballot for Californians to vote on that, if passed, would give us $10 billion to build more housing. And I think a big portion of that, if passed, would need to go to helping those who are homeless.
So you need even more money.
At what point do they acknowledge that everything that we're doing isn't working?
Well, they can't do that because he's been in elected office in this state for 18 years. He's part of the problem. It's the same nonsense with Nithya running for mayor. She's been on that LA City Council for half a decade. She's part of the problem. How exactly do you get a promotion?
And didn't this guy represent Oakland in the state legislature too?
Do you think that California has gone too far, not far enough, or struck the right balance when it comes to criminal justice reform in the state?
When I was on the city council in Richmond, that city was considered the most dangerous city per capita in the state of California.
Now it's Oakland.
Richmond. And to be clear, he's talking about California, not Virginia. All right, there you have it. One of the Tonys running for governor, State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman.